And welcome everybody to episode 51 of JobSeeker Live Talk. Welcome everybody joining us live on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and let me check my LinkedIn. Yes, we are live. So, during our episodes, we're going to be sharing how job seekers really could best position themselves in today's job market. We're providing various topics, resume tips, interviewing advice, and the real struggles that a lot of job seekers are having, post COVID, I guess you could say, but still some issues, and we'll touch on those today. So let's get right to it, listeners. And I'd like to welcome my guest, and my guest today is Clifford Watkin. Clifford is the founder and chief people officer for Circle Strategies, and we hope to learn a little bit more about them today. And welcome, Clifford.
Thank you. Thanks, David, for having me.
Yeah, no, of course. I invited you onto the show based on what you do now, but your previous history, and I know you have some insights into today's job market. So why don't you tell everybody, introduce yourself, and tell everybody a little bit about what you do.
Sure. I'm a human resources consultant, and I run Circle Strategies, which is a full human resources consulting firm. We offer services in the area of HR administration, benefits, employee compliance, HR compliance, as well as the traditional training services, compensation services, survey work, employee performance, recruiting, everything that there is that falls under the sun for HR. And a little bit about myself is that I fell into this career, which people tend to do into HR. I graduated college with a management information systems degree, and I got a job working for Watson Wyatt back then, which was originally Watson Wyatt, doing benefits enrollment technology software. And quickly learned after doing that for a little while that I really didn't enjoy sitting in front of a computer and programming, even though I studied it in school. I just wanted to get out in front and talk to clients and do that kind of work. So fortunately, they were able to transfer me to the actual consulting part of the business. And that's where I got all of my technical skills on what you need to know to be a consultant, what you need to know in HR and benefits. And then I've just transferred that in different roles over the years and started Circle Strategies about 14 years ago. But we recently rebranded 2 years ago to Circle Strategies. And we have been providing services to clients since then.
Okay. Well, no, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I mean, I went to school to be an accountant until I learned until I learned I could not sit behind a desk all day. Now, that knowledge back then when I was young served me well into what I did prior to doing what I do. So yeah, I mean, sometimes in fact, most of us a lot of times don't go to school and then don't always do what we planned on there. So we'll get to comments and questions and be sharing that. But what I want to make sure is if you have any questions during the show, regardless of what they're job whatever it's what Clifford and what Circle Strategies does, make sure to put them in the comments, and we'll be sharing those as well. Make sure to tell us where you're watching from, what city, what state, what country, because normally we usually have more than a few people from around the world today. So I've been spying on you a little bit before the show, looking at some of your content, looking at your website. I want to get right down to it. So I write resumes, help people with their LinkedIn profiles, help job seekers, land that new job. But what still baffles me is, I learned something from you is, latest data is showing the economy is still about 3 million jobs shy of pre-pandemic levels and about 4%, unemployment. I don't understand that. Now, I know the Great Recession, whatever you want to call it. Now, I have been getting clients that need to get back into the workforce, and I get it. But I don't understand where these shortages are. I know companies are still struggling to find those qualified applicants. Can you maybe shed some light? Because I can read it, but I still don't understand why this is still the case.
Sure. Now, before we start, David, I did get a text from someone saying that on the event page, it says that the event is canceled. So I just want to make sure that it's okay before I answer.
Oh, yeah, no, go ahead. Sometimes it does that, like when the show starts. But no, if somebody goes to my page and still there, I'm watching us. We're still live. Yes.
Okay, cool. So there's a couple of things going on. There's the numbers that you just referred to, which is taking a look at job data that's out there and comparing the applicants that are looking for jobs versus the companies that are posting jobs. And essentially, you also have to take those numbers into consideration with the fact that a lot of people, as a result of the pandemic, have essentially taken themselves out of the market and become a contractor. And it's a contractor to do many, many different jobs instead of making the commitment to go back to what they were doing before. And companies have added that category since the pandemic to offer contract work because it's so difficult to get people.
Sure.
So there's the number side of it, which is confusing. Yes, I get it. We are, short of the pre-pandemic numbers in terms of unemployment. We had really good unemployment before the pandemic. And then now we still have good unemployment, lower numbers. But what's happening and what has happened as a result of the pandemic is more and more people have decided to leave good jobs, not leave jobs because the company had struggles and they were getting laid off.
Sure.
It's mostly the issues that employers are facing today when we hear about the Great Resignation. And that's some of the things I wanted to share with everyone today as to what is it from the candidate's perspective, what are they looking at, and what do they really need in order to either stay engaged in their current position and not leave, or leave because the company is not providing them what it is that they're looking for.
Sure.
So I think you have those two different groups. You have the groups of numbers and the statistically what we look at. And yes, it does create some confusion there because we've got a large amount of people moving to contract and we have a lot of people just staying home and not working, not going back to work. And then you have these large numbers of people leaving their jobs just because it's a job market, a candidate job market, and they can put themselves in that position and vie for a better paying job or a better job with improved working conditions. There's a whole host of reasons.
No, and that makes sense when you say that because my wife is in the pharmaceutical industry now. Doesn't works with pharmaceutical companies, but they hire an awful lot of contractors. It seems like they're easier to faster to hire. Again, it doesn't mean that they don't have employees, and they have an awful lot, but those contractors come with a lot of experience and hop around a lot of times. But so I guess that does make sense based on what you said there. So, but okay, so because of that, I mean, what are some things that you provide that might help those companies find qualified people faster?
So we do provide recruiting services, and our approach to recruiting has been different even prior to the pandemic. I recognized a while ago that the employer brand was missing from how companies positioned themselves and offered the jobs to candidates when they had open positions. Prior to the pandemic, jobs were typically posted on LinkedIn and all the job sites with essentially a brief job description and essentially saying, I'm hiring for a mechanical engineer. This is a review of the job. These are the skill sets I need. This is how many years of experience, all that good stuff. But very little was said about the company and why it was a great place to go work for that company. And so I wanted to take the approach as we were recruiting for our clients that the company who we were recruiting for should have a really good brand in the market space. And so we helped them put together a good brand to position themselves, a good employer brand as to why people should come and work for them, other than what they find out at the during the interview process. This is before the interview process. And so that has helped bring in a good amount of candidates that normally might have skipped the job just because the job description just looked a little boring.
Sure.
And so that has helped. We've also used a lot of screening tools that have helped companies bring in candidates that are not only qualified for the job technically, but the company really understands where the individuals are from a soft skills perspective. Many of the soft skills today are easily identified through different tools, and we use this specific tool from a company called Pixi, and that allows us to assess the candidate's soft skills and be able to report that to the client before the candidate has even been interviewed. And that helps to assess individuals. And we also use some written assessments that helps, further narrow down the candidates before we present them to the client. And our approach has always been, we're going to take it off your hands, evaluate all the candidates, bring you, a certain number of candidates that are completely vetted, really good, have a good skill set. We understand who they are as individuals and are going to meet the criteria for the company. So the interview process on their end, the decision-making process on their end is quick.
Gotcha. So is that, I've never heard it put that way, where you try to make sure that they have that brand. Any pushback during that from some of those clients that you take on? Well, what do you mean brand? We have one, or I mean, because right, or maybe they're like, we just need new hires, right? We just need these positions filled. Any pushback, or or maybe they've never thought of that before?
A lot of them haven't thought about it before, and then they do say, yes, we have this brand, and their marketing department has put together this brand. Sure. And really my message to them is, just ask your marketing department to think about adding a few components that talk about what it's like to work there, not necessarily what you're selling or the pricing or the benefit that the company is going to be gaining by buying their product. And it's very easy for the we help the company identify a couple of things. Sure. And then marketing puts them together, and then it's relatively easy. It's very prominent now because companies are struggling to find people and differentiate themselves, and they want to be able to say, this is what it's like to come work for us. We've got a great work environment, and these are some of our accomplishments, those kinds of things. So we do see a lot of that more now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna touch base on that a little bit more in depth. But what I want to do right now is just take a look to see who's joined us today. So, uh, Rosa, good afternoon to you. And Brett is live watching us from Las Vegas, and appreciate you showing up today, Brett. There, and morning to you. And let's see who else. Oh, hey, she loves these lives. You know what? We love the fact that you're watching us live. Just remember, any questions for anybody. And Gina recently connected with you on LinkedIn. Thank you for showing up. Make sure if you have any questions, put them in the comments. We'll look at a couple more before we get to another. Again, any job seeker related questions, any questions for Clifford regarding his company, make sure to put them down here. Kurt Woodrow, South Carolina, I believe that's South Carolina. And thank you for showing up today. And we'll take one more. Puerto Rico, watching us all the way. I love Puerto Rico, and thank you for showing up today. So you touched on something, Clifford, that I wanted to talk about. So I'm 53. Okay. I remember back in the day when, I went to work for, a company based on, lots of different things, but company culture was not at the top of mind, right? Money, maybe promotion or whatever. We have shifted well before COVID, that we care about, company's mission. Maybe we even care about, how environmental, friendly they are, right? We're interviewing companies more than ever before. Something had to shift. Like I said, way before COVID. What happened that job seekers actually, before, boss told me to do this, do that. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. No questions asked. Prior to me leaving and doing what I do now, I had employees going, well, why Dave this? Why Dave that? And I'm like, sometimes I had to scratch my head and go, because I said so, right? We were in that. So what happened? Why is it so important to job seekers nowadays, for them to be a part of something more than it was maybe back in the day? What happened? Something had to have happened. And I'm sure you have some insights on that.
I do. I was actually talking about this with my daughter this weekend. It's great that you asked that question. So prior to the pandemic, this is my perspective and my take on what was happening in the organizations that employees just happened to deal with and just manage and just continue to stay with the organizations they were with, or if they were unhappy, they would leave and go to another organization. But most of the survey data, the exit interview survey data, they would be saying to the employer, I'm leaving because I got a salary raise, or I'm leaving because they have better benefits. But nobody was really saying that I was leaving because my manager was poor. Nobody was saying that I didn't feel like I was valued. Nobody was saying I was leaving because my manager doesn't recognize that I want career development. When you ask those survey questions to people who've already left, that's what they're saying. So all of that was happening way before the pandemic, and employees were just working there at their companies, and then they were just leaving. And the differentiator was new location, new company, new environment, new salary, new benefits, maybe a different change in the kind of work that they were doing. When the Generation Zs came around, and I will absolutely take this on the chin, as I raised 3 of them, we all said at the time that they were superstars, and everybody got a prize, and
Yes.
everybody felt valued, and everybody felt like they were a winner. And so what my daughter said to me this weekend was, well, that's all great, Dad, but you really didn't prepare us for when we weren't a winner. And we go to work and our boss says, your work stinks. And you're like, but I thought I'd get a prize. So we had a good old laugh about that. So that's what was happening. 5 years
Good.
before COVID, HR managers and executives and managers were talking about how come the workforce is asking for more feedback, and how come our recent grads from college need more support, and how come they need more direction, and they're looking for reviews more frequently. That's because they were coming out of an environment, if you were raised by parents like ours, um, that's what they were coming out of. So then you have that going on, which leads you now to the pandemic. And the people who worked during the pandemic, let's just take those that were in jobs that didn't require you to stay home, except for the short time in the beginning. These are jobs that people are in service, in healthcare, in manufacturing, where you had to go back. You changed the way you did your work in that environment, but you went back and you worked really hard, and you got recognized for it. Hopefully, companies provided bonuses if they had money to be able to do that. And hopefully the manager said, you did a really great job. You helped us get through the pandemic. Those of us that worked in positions in offices went home and worked from home for, in some cases, 2 years, and then were asked to come back. Now, those folks, the biggest issue for them is, I don't really like commuting an hour to work. And I really like being at home so I can, if I have a family, have more quality time with my family. Or if I don't, and I'm single or just married, we're able to go work from wherever. And that allows us to have more flexibility. So when employers before pandemic were saying we're giving you a flexible work environment, that's not what they meant. What they meant is what people want now, which is a flexible work environment to be able to work 6 months from California and work 3 months from Colorado during the winter so they can go skiing after work. That's what they want. That's why they don't want to come back to work. And it's staying. It's here. It's not going back.
No.
We gave it to them and they loved it and they had it for a very long time, and it's not going back. But what they're saying is, if you're going to take it back, I'm going to leave because I can go find another job because it's a job seekers market.
Yes. And that's a great,
go ahead.
Oh, that's a great transition to a question we have, but we have solved it. It's Clifford's fault for telling your kids, listen. Yes, I mean, I have a 30-year-old, so yes, same thing. We're all guilty. It's all of our faults, but it is different. It is different. But thank you for sharing that. But okay, even before COVID, this question that I'm about to pull up is a thing, because I remember having to do workforce planning. I've always been in positions where the P&L, I'm looking at the P&L constantly. And I know labor is, in most organizations, is a lot of times the most, most expensive part of the P&L, I guess you could say. But even before COVID, this question that Brett pulls up: why do you think firms pay a premium for new talent, yet refuse similar premiums to loyal performers? So again, this is so true. Even before COVID, I remembered doing workforce planning, reviewing, my teams. I was a multi-unit manager, had, 10, 12 stores and the employees that there, and we were bringing on employees and sometimes making more than some of the ones that had been there for a long time and producing because we had to, right? With again, minimum wage, just wages in general, but yet we couldn't, up the, wages of our current employee, So you were right. I mean, the easiest way to give yourself a raise is to go find another job for another company that's going to pay you more than what you're currently what you're doing. So, why won't companies understand, okay, we need to give everybody a flat 15%, again, bottom line P&L, right? But are there companies out there doing this? If so, obviously, have you seen this? But, when are companies going to realize that they need to really reevaluate their current teams? Because again, bringing on, and I know somebody recently that is managing people and had somebody come in, somebody that they were going to be managing, making more than their manager. Now, that was adjusted. That manager received a nice little bump, but I mean, come on. So, when is this gonna, when is this gonna hit? And companies are going to need to do that, or maybe they're just not. What's your opinion on that?
Thanks, Brett, for asking that question. I'm actually really glad you asked it because you're absolutely hitting the nail on the head with what is at risk for the employer who isn't paying attention to their current loyal performers. And I think, let me just share with you what we are doing when we are presented with this problem as a consulting firm. I started this last summer. I developed for lack of a better word, an assessment tool to focus on 4 really important things that you're addressing when you talk about your loyal performers. You're talking about what are they getting paid and how much are they being paid against the market. You're also talking about how they feel about their managers and whether the managers are performing well and providing the loyal performer what they need to continue being a loyal performer. You're also talking about what does the whole organization feel about the company as a whole. When I use the word culture, it's different now. Before, the culture was, are we having pizza parties, or do we have a foosball table, or what are we doing after work? That's not what I'm talking about culture today. When I talk about culture today, I want to know what's the organization doing with equity and inclusion. What's the company's environmental focus? Tell me about what you think as an organization your mission is, and how does it tie to the work I do every day? This is what people who are looking for jobs today want to know. They want to know those answers. And if the employer is not providing them during the job interview or posting it on their company information, then the employee is going to move on. And that's a little bit about why it's hard to find candidates today. But to get back to this question, we take that information, and also we look at the employee benefits and we determine where they fit. So we have now this statistical data. We've got an employee survey. We know where the employer falls within the market. Are they above with comp, at the market, or below the market? We know what employees think about the managers and how they're performing as managers, and we know where they are with the benefits. And so we can say pretty accurately, this is where you are as an organization. This is what the employee experience is like. And if you don't like this employee experience, then there's something else going on, meaning maybe you don't like the work, maybe you had a fight with an employee and you're just really dissatisfied with the organization, whatever it is. But those four main things are what employers are providing all of their employees today. And now you can assess how you are with the employee experience and then make an educated decision to say, yeah, we do have to pay more money because our salaries really aren't at the market. Or yes, we have really good salaries, benefits, we've got good managers, but we're lacking when it comes to performance management or performance development, career development. And so maybe we need to improve on that and put programs in place for that to help the loyal performers stay at the organization. Or maybe it is just a salary thing and we have to make salary adjustments. And I think when an organization, and I'm talking at the leadership level now, recognizes that their employee experience is suffering, that people aren't leaving just to get a higher salary, they're leaving because their employee experience is suffering, and they're willing to assess all of those components, not look at the components individually in a silo, then you're able to get a good picture and say, we don't have to pay that higher salary to get this person to join the organization. We've got good talent right here. We just need to know how to develop this person better so that they can continue to perform.
Yeah, and you know what? And shame on leaders that don't understand what motivates their teams, because sometimes people think, oh, it's bonus, right? But it's not. Maybe it's just more time off, right? Maybe they enjoy actually taking, vacations, right? So, you have to know what motivates your teams, because, most people are not gonna. If I make 100K. I'm probably not going to leave for 120K if I'm extremely happy, because I probably wouldn't. At least I would not. Why? Because if I'm extremely happy and my boss knows, or is developing me for that next position, and owns my, my climb, to learn more, to do more, right? And sometimes, sometimes it's just praise, knowing that I'm worth, not a dollar amount, but that I'm appreciated, right? So again, you have to know what motivates your teams. But yes, Brett, that again, but companies, and we have been seeing, I know Apple. Just for all their, Genius Bar, shops. I think they raised their starting wage to like $22 an hour. Now, I know we're talking about, some hourly positions, but still they've realized that they have to, pay more. They have to. So, and I know they are going back and looking at what people currently make and upping that person that was making maybe 20 to 24 or 25 based on tenure. So listen, I know companies, don't, labor is, such a huge expense, but, having to retrain new people, not sure if those new people are going to work out, keeping those people that are happy and making sure they're happy. So yeah, Brett, that is a, fantastic question. And I think we're gonna look at one more question, and then I have some other questions for our guest today. And Kara has a question. So are there any specific questions maybe a job seeker can ask during an interview? Maybe I've done my homework, I've went and see, here's their mission, but is there anything that they can ask when they have the right people in front of them, maybe during those interviews, to make sure that the culture is going to be a good fit for him or her?
I think that's a great question, Kara. And I think I want to touch on some of the key components that are a little bit more softer in the evaluation of the position. Softer meaning not salary, not job title, not skill set, all of that kind of thing. I think what's really important to employees today, before they make the decision about the job, are these couple of components. The first one is to really understand what or how the organization handles remote work and flexible work, because it's now part of the organization's fabric, whether the organization has recognized it or not. And even if they are making a decision for a year out and then maybe it'll change, that's fine. But really understand what that means to the organization and make sure it's in line with what you're expecting, and understanding how you'll be able to work flexible work time. For example, I heard a situation come up where an employer chose to have the employees come back 3 days a week. They chose Monday, Wednesday, Friday. A candidate said, why am I doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Why not Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? So I can have, Fridays and Mondays at home and have more flexibility with my family. And so somebody chose not to take the job because of that. And so if you didn't ask the question, well, what 3 days, then that's going to be a huge disconnect.
Sure.
That's important to know. What's the remote work, or what does flexible work look like? Another really important question is, where does the organization, or what's the focus of the organization when it comes to equity and inclusion? How does the organization position itself? Not necessarily just what are the words that they're putting on their webpage, but what have they done, or what are they doing to show that the organization is diverse and equitable? And what do they do to their to show their customers, and what do they do to show their vendors, and where is it that it's now part of the organization structure? I think that's also a very good question to understand. And if you're hiring or looking for a job that's producing a product or managing something that's in the environmental space or connected to the environment, make sure that you understand and feel comfortable with the organization's mission, and then how they're acting outside of producing their product. What are they doing to the greater purpose of watching out for the environment? And so you can get a good sense of what that is, and whether it meets your smell test.
Sure. And I'd like to add one other thing is, LinkedIn, 800 plus million users. Go find people on LinkedIn. LinkedIn makes this search so easy that you could find people that work at that company in that same position, maybe even where you live. Reach out to some ones that maybe have only been there for the last year, last 6 months, last 2 years. I think you might get a better glimpse about what the culture is than messaging somebody that's been there maybe for 10, 20 years.
Sure.
Not that it wouldn't, but again, finding those people that have been there for a little while. But LinkedIn, just so that you're not always maybe asking those questions of it, doing your homework doesn't mean just going to the company's website or LinkedIn business page. Reach out to people in jobs, in the same companies that you're looking to apply for. If you know maybe you're about to apply or you have an upcoming interview in a week or two, reach out to some of those people on LinkedIn, because you know what? Maybe they'll even take a phone call. LinkedIn is a very giving platform. You'd be quite surprised. You message enough people, somebody will just say, hey, well, let's get on a video chat or a phone call real quick. But I think that's what I personally would do. And you might get real answers by doing that, because again, it's not that person that you're interviewing with. So,
That's
but
a really
so far,
good
so great.
suggestion, David. Really good.
Well, I take the approach that job seekers should always, before applying for that job, do just that, is messaging people are in the same or similar roles and just asking them random questions. And again, that could lead to a potential referral or whatever. But again, especially as somebody that's been there maybe 6 months, a year, 2 years, and it takes you very little time to search for people like that on LinkedIn. Is the and listen, for a lot of jobs, this might not work, but is the 4-day work week, is that going to be like real? So just a little bit of glimpse into my previous career. So I worked 5.5 days a week. So we had to work Monday through Friday. We were required, I was a multi-unit manager. We were required to work half a day that turned in a lot of times a full day. But we were required to work half a day on Saturday. Sunday, our stores were closed, thank heavens, because a lot of times that's the only truly day. So 4-day, I can't go back and imagine that. But can companies get stuff done in 4 days? And does that mean that nobody's in the office or nobody's working on Friday, Saturday, Sunday? Or does that look, maybe some people are off on Mondays or whatever? So what are your thoughts on that? Because I hear it, it might be a thing in, some companies or whatever, but, maybe they just tease it, during the interview process or whatever. But, is it possible?
I have to say, David, that it's going to become a thing.
Okay.
I was looking at some survey data before the program, and there was a study done in 2019 with Microsoft Japan, who trialed a 4-day work week, and they boosted productivity 40%, lowered their electrical consumption by 23%. That's real money. There's been studies also in New Zealand and Iceland to, of course, prove that, yes, people are more productive.
Sure.
And then another study showed that 63% of companies were more successful at attracting and keeping staff because of the 4-day work week.
Sure.
So I think it's made its way to the real world, meaning like big companies are paying attention to it. Kickstarter, Unilever, and Shake Shack have already started testing a 4-day work week. So if a retailer like Shake Shack can do a 4-day work week, so can anybody, right?
Oh, yes.
And I think to answer your question about, well, is nobody working on Friday or is nobody working on Monday, or what does it mean? I think
Sure.
there has to be an expectation or an understanding that not everybody gets Friday off because
Sure.
there are people that are going to have to be there, that are going to need to be representing the organization. And maybe they're on a, just like a hospital or the emergency room where doctors are on rotation and stuff like that.
Sure.
Companies will just start to do that. But I think we can't go back. As a result of COVID, we proved that you don't even have to have a week. People just work all the time. And they were productive. And so you have that statistical data. So I think employees are going to ask for it more and more.
I think we just have to ask, because just like I don't get a lot of some of the industrial companies that might work 12-hour shifts where they work from 6 a.m. to, and then they rotate them, which does, if I have to work 1 week of 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. to 6 p, and then the next week I work 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. That does not do that does do your sleep patterns any justice whatsoever. But here's where I think we just have to ask. There might be that employee that loves working on Fridays and Mondays, but needs Tuesdays off because it would be better for daycare, right? So I think we just have to ask. If we ask employees, well, why rotating shifts when you could just find the people that love 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and that's where they stay. Again, so I think we just have to ask. I think we always think that people want Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays off, right? But again, what if a lot of those, Tuesday would be great, because then I could, again, I think we have to ask. And, I think we just think we have some of these preconceived notions that people want this, but again, maybe they don't. Maybe they like that middle of the week work week off. They get to go and do this, or do, again, care for a family member, whatever. But so I think we just have to ask. We have to be mindful that not everybody wants the same thing.
And also, our lifestyles have changed. So if you do have a partner or you're married and have children, it's been a while now since people have been working. Both partners in the relationship.
Oh, yes.
Working.
Yes.
So they're used to, somebody's going to have a part-time shift or a different schedule or something like that. It's the organizations that have been in the professional space that have people coming into the office that have this traditionalist 9 to 5, Monday through Friday approach, are the ones that are essentially left to make this decision. But COVID has already said everybody's working from home, and they did great.
No, yeah. And, I've been hearing a lot about Apple headquarters. Apple said, to some of these people a year ago, you're never going to come back to the office. And then guess what? Now you kind of need to come back to the office. And that's tough to be able to say, hey, you're never going to come back. And then now all of a sudden we want to. So even some of these, great companies to potentially work for might not be those employees might not be feeling the love. So I want to share a little bit about the website before we get to any questions, before we run out of time today. So can you tell me a little bit more about, actually, let me remove that banner there. Can you tell me a little bit more about the different services that you would provide? So who typically hires you? What do they hire you for? What flexibility is there in some of the things that organizations hire you for?
Sure. Because HR has so many different components, we tried to summarize it into 4. And if you just go to the top of the page, there's really 4 main areas that HR seems to fall into. You're in the HR administration section, and then there is the talent management section, employee benefits, and then business strategy. HR administration is anything to do with administering your HR. Leaves, onboarding, recruiting, anything to do with compliance, handbooks, policies, employee relations, all the day-to-day payroll, all the day-to-day administrative transaction work. And we do that for companies because maybe they have somebody who is going on a maternity leave or is sick for 6 months and they need somebody to step in to do that. Then we also have companies that need us to just be their HR department, and they don't want to spend the money to hire a full-time HR person, and they're happy with just a part-time HR person. So we do that in this space too. in our talent management section, this is where we do all the things that we were alluding to a little bit earlier, which is things like career development and coaching and leadership development, training, benchmarking, our employee experience assessment, that kind of work we would do as part of our talent management work, and compensation benchmark studies, those kinds of things. And then also we focus on rewards and recognition, and provide different kinds of benefits and programs for employers to consider that are new and innovative, that are not been mainstream and are probably going to be becoming mainstream because employees are asking for better benefits. Then we're helping companies with their employee benefit programs, and negotiating with the insurance carriers, and helping them with contribution strategies, and helping them lower their healthcare costs, and those kinds of things. And our business strategy section, over the years, we've been asked quite a few times to help companies with a business strategy. So they may have been, downsizing, or maybe they were going through a succession plan, and we were helping develop the succession plan from the employee perspective, but nothing was addressed from the business perspective and the finances. Or a company was looking to add another product to their suite of products, or a company was looking to acquire another company. We have business strategy consultants on staff that are able to go in and do the business strategy work alongside with all of the employee pieces that get impacted with that business strategy work.
So not only do I not, maybe have to, all this time hiring the right team that I hope is the right team, right? But I mean, I can hire, your organization to hire, do all my HR, again, training. I mean, this is so much that, again, that's where, writing that check for this services becomes a lot easier, because like you said, now I only have maybe one person, and maybe that person, works with your organization a little bit, on these things, obviously. But now I have all of these things. I have a very qualified team, meaning your team, doing these, and I don't have to, have those, that team of employees doing this, or just maybe I have a few people that work on this with obviously your organization to really the whole suite of services there. So no, and
it does provide a lot of flexibility for companies, because companies are in transition a lot of time, and maybe you need a lot of support, and then maybe you don't. And so you're able to transition the support out from us and then bring people internally to do it on a regular basis.
Gotcha. So might need that initial help, right, for an extended period of time until you get that, or you just decide to let you run with it. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and then we do have a question. So Rob wants to know maybe what is the your typical size company that comes to you that you help.
So our company generally works with organizations that are either in the startup phase and going to about 500 employees. Those companies generally can tap into a lot of the resources that we have available.
Okay.
We have recently, starting last year, built out significantly our training and leadership development team. And so we did that purposefully to go into larger organizations who need a team of trainers or coaches to support a coaching initiative. And then also more recently, we've branched out internationally to help companies solve some of their international issues with compensation benchmarking or training, and also hiring employees in different countries to do the work locally in that country rather than hiring the employee in the US. Because we have such a shortage of qualified candidates to bring into the positions, there's plenty of people who are qualified around the world to be able to fill those positions, and so we're helping companies do that as well.
Okay. Well, Bob, if that answers, or message Clifford on LinkedIn, definitely. So, really quick, you also do a live, broadcast every so often. Talk a little bit about that before we wrap up today.
Sure. We decided to develop a short narrative called Predictions 2022. And towards the end of last year, everybody was saying, well, what's going to happen in 2022? It's going to be a crazy year. So we decided to do some podcasts and highlight issues that leadership should be focusing on for 2022. And mostly it's about coming pandemic, bringing people back to the organization, trying to understand what other organizations are doing and that's innovative or that helps them manage this big, huge shift in organizations that leaders have to worry about. And so we call it Predictions 2022. And I think we were able to just highlight some very key topics during those.
Okay. And that was easy. I'll have a link to your website in the show notes. And all you do is go onto the homepage and go to events there. So that's what 57 minutes goes by really quick. We had a lot of, there's one question that we didn't get to, and maybe we could answer that, afterwards, but I want to respect your time today. I want to thank all of the people that showed up today. Hey, if you're watching the the replay, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, and you have a question, that is easy. Either put it in the comments or ask the pro, ask Clifford. Send him a message. What is the best way for somebody to get in touch with you? Is it LinkedIn? Is it email?
Yeah, I think LinkedIn is the best way. We do have a dedicated person who manages all of our LinkedIn, so that message will definitely not get lost.
Okay, all right. So hey, I want to thank you for showing up today, and I learned an awful lot about your business, and obviously the market from the job seeker and the employer, which I think makes you super valuable in bringing those services that you do to various companies, and I'm sure they get tons of results because I don't think I have never come across a complete package of service. I mean, you really do what a lot of HR. I remember the HR relationships that I had in my previous company that I was with, and they did do an awful lot of training, but they resourced some other things out as well. So I like that this is kind of just a one-stop shop, or at least that's my opinion after listening.
Thank you. Well, it's been great chatting with you, David. It's a great conversation, lots of good questions. So thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And anyway, we'll take that one last question offline. So again, thank you for showing up today, everybody. If you want to, I'll make sure to have the email link to his LinkedIn page, company page. And again, if you're a startup or maybe a small business struggling with some HR, at least take a look at the website, see if that answers some questions. And if not, send Clifford a message. So Clifford, again, thank you for showing up today. And I think we really nailed some of those questions. And we learned that it's all Clifford's fault for raising kids and telling them they're all winners. No, I'm just joking, but it is true. I have that conversation with my daughter as well too. So, but anyway, thank you for being a guest today. I really appreciate it, and I'll make sure to follow you on LinkedIn.
Thanks so much. You have a great day, David.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, everybody. Wow. I mean, listen, Brett, thank you for the question. Kara, thank you for the question. And Kara, I know you had another question, and maybe we can answer that, offline. I want to be respectful, of Clifford's time. And I'll put in the show notes, everybody. Again, how to get in touch with him. That website, I think, answers a lot of questions, and you can hire them for your HR. Just maybe you are that startup and need that HR right now, like yesterday. But then after a while, if you want to transition off, then you can do that as well. So, or just continue to use those services, because again, more than HR. Development of people, get people to stay. And Clifford's going to have those conversations with you, meaning, hey, you got to pay your people more if you're bringing in on somebody at 120 and your current people are only making 100 or whatever. You got to up level those other people in your organization. So that's it, everybody. Thank you. We are going to have another episode tomorrow at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Look for that. And as always, everybody, I hope you make the rest of this week your best week ever. Bye for now, everybody.